Hi team, welcome back to the Identity Human podcast. I think we're on episode number 73 or 74 now, which is pretty cool. And I got some feedback the other day just about one of the episodes where someone was like, I'm really hoping to get some insight around teams because it's going to help me with my business. And I had done that episode more around the individual and your own trust and how it helps. And we started to delve into teams. So I thought today I would go after just some elements of a high performing team. I wonder if you are able to pick up my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 step-ish cycle stages that I look at for how we get high performing teams. I try to simplify as much as I can so that you guys aren't expecting a full day workshop on high performing teams, but you're actually going, that makes sense. I haven't got that bit. So it almost gives you a checklist as you go through it. So if you want to take notes on this one, you should be able to pick up because I emphasize it quite often. Let's see what you got in you. But with no further ado, welcome back to the Identity Human podcast with your host, Don. So we haven't had Ray for a while. She is very busy at the moment, but I do miss her. Ray, if you listen to this, I do miss you. But for those of you that are loyal and you come back weekly, and for those that are new, it's great to have you guys here. And I am just sitting at my desk today instead of in the studio. It's not set up. We're still trying to paint it black and do more things there. We will get to a point where it's permanently set up. But I thought today we would be talking just around like team, because I always feel like it's such useful information that we probably don't really think about unless we're in a team and unless it gets put to us like, oh, you guys have to go on this, there's team training, all that kind of stuff. But actually, a bit of common knowledge really helps. And it's not complicated. It ties in exactly with what we talk about here. So when I talk about team, I'm going to define it first. What do I mean by team? It's a group of individuals that come together to achieve a common goal. Okay, so have you got a common goal? And what I mean by this is, let's think about the context first and understand that as I talk through this, the fundamental elements don't change. Okay, so whether you're at work, with friends, with family, in a random group of people, the elements around a team, and if you want to take it to the next step, a high-performing team, they don't change. They're the same. And if you can grasp some of the concepts that I talk about today, you will be able to manufacture connection and achievements wherever you go. So even if you work one-on-one with clients, you are essentially, as in you're one and they are one person, you're a team. You just happen to be a very small team. You got to understand the roles, and we'll talk about it today. And I'm really hoping that some of this will be useful for those of you that are, say, parents and you have kids and you're a team. For those of you that own businesses, and even if it's a small business, you need to understand teams. For those of you that are in a team, that can be the most frustrating thing ever when you don't have a broader understanding of what that actually looks like and what are some of the specifics that we can take away as value add and not think that we have to go and do team building and don't do all of these other extra things before we can consider ourselves a team. Okay, so first and foremost, understanding, are you aware that a team is made up of different roles? Now, what I mean by that is like, yes, of course we are. In a rugby sense, we have a prop and a hooker, a lock, a flank, an eighth man. So it's easy to see. But what about in a work team when you're all, let's say, for example, if you're a project management team and you have your administrators, your project administrators, your project leads, you've got people that own the processes, people that own the delivery. Even within that, we have to understand what those roles are so that we don't overstep boundaries. And what I would always say is, like, if you think about this, so for your family team, like there's the husband, then there's the wife, and then there's the children. But even within the children, there's the older child, the middle child, the younger child. All of those are specific roles that have to be treated accordingly. I think this is where sometimes we go wrong, is we try and treat everyone as if they're the same. Now, if it gets complicated, I want you to think about, at a base level, there has to be something that is the same, that you do treat everyone according to a certain set of standards, characteristics, how we interact, how we talk to each other. But as it starts to, it's like this, let's say it's an upside down triangle. I mean, is there an upside down triangle, or is it just the triangle is the way it is, whichever way you put it, whether it's the 1 point down or the 1 point up? So I'm going to say the 1 point down, so it's like a cone going up, is as you go higher and higher up this cone, so as you look at the different roles, you have to treat each other differently. So in a rugby team, you're going to have different levels of fitness, different levels of strength, different skills that are needed. In your family environment, your mother and father will play different roles. Who's the primary parent? Who's the secondary one? I.e., who makes the decisions on when we're going to change the nappies, when we're going to do potty training, when we're going to teach the kids. So yes, it's a group decision, as in if I'm the primary parent, I will then say, oh, I think it's time that so-and-so needs to start reading. I think it's so-and-so time that so-and-so needs to learn to ride the bike because it's an important milestone. And the other person go, yes or no, I disagree, etc., etc. You have that conversation. But you'll always have a primary and secondary, because if more than one person's accountable, no one's accountable. So that's a key element in a team. So if you have a team and you guys are currently not, let's go into business sense, and you're currently not performing, the first thing I want you to look at is like, who's accountable? Who's the one person, not everyone. Because if everyone is accountable, it's too easy to say, oh, well, it's with Jack or it's with Jill, and they're up the hill. So I want you to try and think about, first and foremost, is your accountability. Like, do you have that in place? So when you go into meetings, when you finish meetings, do you say, we need to get this done? Or do you say, Jack, you need to make sure that gets done? The next level of that is, it doesn't mean that Jack does it all. It means that in a week's time, you can go to Jack and you say, Jack, how is that going? And he should know where it is, how it is, and what's going on, because he is the one that should be moving that along, and he's responsible, he's accountable. Okay, so what we want to try and get rid of is say, like, anonymity. So in my household, I'm going to keep cross-referencing here. If I was to put Miles in charge of making sure that the dining room table was always tidy, then that's him. If it's untidy, I can go to him. But if I don't do that, if I don't put Miles in charge, for example, now everyone's in charge of keeping it tidy, then it works well for a week or two, but eventually everyone gets tired and you walk in and it's untidy and you say, guys, like, we didn't keep the table tidy. And they go, well, I didn't make the mess. So-and-so didn't make the mess. Immediately, it's okay to make the mess because you're anonymous and you don't have to clean it up again because, no one's going to hold me to account. But if you put Miles in charge, even if he doesn't make the mess, he can be like, Laurie, I saw you sitting there. You need to come and tidy this up, please. And at the end of the day, that's on him to make sure it gets done. And that's why I think there's a load of lessons between parenting and business. We just don't see the crossover. But if you start to see the crossovers, you can practice at home exactly the same things as you put in at work. So if we stick with the work context now and we say, like, do you understand your roles and do people know what they're accountable for? Because if they know what they're accountable for, they're going to get stuff done. People enjoy that responsibility. People don't enjoy being anonymous. So we want to come in and we want to know that we're making a difference. Now, on that point of making a difference, the very fundamental element that I see missing currently in teams and in businesses, because somewhere along the line, a very analytical speaker or a very powerful analytical person has said, vision doesn't matter, mission, all that kind of nonsense stuff doesn't matter. It's just about, let's just get stuff done. But remember, from an internal motivation point of view, people like to be a part of something. People like to be contributing to a greater good, whether they admit it or not. Okay, so do you have an overall goal that everyone wants to buy into in your team? Okay, and do you know where you're going? So I'm trying to think. In Chiefs, for example, when we played rugby, there was winning the double was the bigger goal that everyone was working towards. So that everything that we did from then on, does this contribute to our greater goal? Does it contribute towards where we want to go? Yes or no? And if it didn't, well, should we be doing that? So you said almost acts as, I know that there's probably been the analogy used as the North Star, the guiding light, but it's that bigger vision that we can see. We're not sure how we're going to get there, but we know that if every step that we take should be contributing in some way or another to that bigger goal. If you don't have that in your business, people are going to be trying their hardest, but they're going to be doing it in a way that doesn't contribute in the way that you see to business. And then you're going to get frustrated with them. But then they're going to get frustrated with you because they go, I'm working my butt off and you're still not appreciating it. I'm working my butt off and I feel like I'm anonymous. I feel like I'm not contributing. And it's because you as the leader, you as the person in charge, have not given them something to direct their energy towards. Okay, so that we again, ultimate responsibility that falls on you. Like the ultimate responsibility of what happens within your organization, within your team, falls on the person at the top. That is a privilege, not a pressure. How can we rise to that? So the fundamentals of making sure that your first thing that you have in place is an overall direction that everyone buys into. Okay, and if you want to, like, there's a simple circular model that I will sometimes take through, and is if you've got to get buy-in, then you've got to find the people that buy into that goal, and then you've got to optimize those people, and then you communicate and review and preview until you get that goal. And then the circle comes in. Once you reach that goal, you do the same thing, because you will get really good people that buy into a goal. Once that goal is achieved, they may not buy into the next one. So once you've achieved the goal, you set the next one, and then you go to the people and you say, do you buy into this one? Yes or no. If people do, you can move to optimizing them. Now, you optimize through getting to know them, understanding personalities, all that kind of stuff. Now, I think a really important element on this optimizing stage is you're not trying to optimize people to motivate them to do stuff. Because if you're trying to motivate them because they're not doing stuff, you need to go back a step and get them to buy in. Because if they haven't bought in, they're not going to be motivated. Does that make sense? Because we really want to tap into that desire of your team, of the people to be there. So that's like, it's that takes the subtle saying of, I'll see what I can do, or I'll try my best. And it takes it over to, I'll do whatever it takes. Now that's full commitment. That's where you got to get to. But we only do that if people really believe in what they're contributing to. Otherwise, it then turns to a sacrifice. You never want people to make sacrifices, because a sacrifice is something you're going to regret doing later. I'm giving up this now because that's more important. But actually, no, that was really important. So we want to make sure that people are in a frame of mind of, I'll do whatever it takes. Okay, so do you have people? So once you've defined your goal, you've defined the structure of your team, i.e., what do we need in order to get there? And not who, but what do we need? What roles do people need to play in order for us to get to our goal? If you haven't defined that, then when you get people on board, they're not going to know what they need to do. So, yes, I'm bought in. You can have the example of you've got a scrum, and the flanker goes off with a red card, and you've got your winger. So the winger buys in, like, this scrum we've got to win the ball. So everyone agrees we've got to win the ball. But then the winger comes on the flank, and they've never played flank before. They don't know what's expected of them. So they put their shoulder on the calf of the prop and their head between their legs, which distracts the props, because the winger he's bought into the goal, but he has no idea what he's doing because he's never been taught that. So if you can think about that, like, that's having the right person in the wrong seat, or having the right person in like, he doesn't know what he's sitting on or where to sit because he's in the dark. So you, from a leadership point of view, from a team point of view, need to have clearly defined roles, because it's not about keeping people in line and making sure that they don't, like, overstep the mark. It's about literally going, I need you to understand that these are what I expect of you. This is how you do it. And this is how I'm going to help you I'm going to help support you along the way according to these. And that's literally how we start to approach people, by doing them favors, not to try and trick them. So you've got to have your overall goal. You've got to have people that buy into it, but you also have to have the roles and responsibilities and accountabilities in place. Once you have those, you can put the people in those roles. Does that make sense? So I know we've probably like really linking in here, and we probably could make this a bit more clear and concise. Buy-in, you get the roles that you need for that buy-in, then you get the people to buy in to that goal, and then you give them those roles. So it's kind of a two-step process, and then you got to optimize them. Okay, so the next thing I would say is, like, when it comes to optimizing, the step of optimizing is, are you aware that not everyone is the same? Yes, Don, I am aware that not everyone's the same. No, but deeply aware. And I mean, like, do you accept this too? So I want to break anyone that has a bias around generation X, Z, Y, and all that kind of stuff, because then those are excuses for your inability to get the best out of them according to how they see the world. You can use the biases of generation X, Y, Z and thing as a form of communication and understanding their point of view if it helps, but never like, they don't work hard because they're Gen Z. Like, I don't believe that for a second. Is because you haven't inspired them, you haven't given the right person, or they're just the wrong person to be in your organization. But I'm talking, the first and foremost is understanding personality types of everyone in general, and then understanding your individual's personality type. So do you do profiling? Do you understand people, like whether they're left brain or right brain? Are they analytical or emotional? Are they a mix of both? Are they detail orientated or are they people orientated? Are they more vocal or are they more inward? Do they need more time to gather information to get their confidence, or do they get their confidence straight away, but in the end, they don't actually ever need that detail, so therefore they may miss some detail? In the way they communicate, are they interpretive communicators or are they descriptive communicators? And how are you communicating to each of these? And yes, I know it sounds like it can get confusing, but you really have to understand that if you want the best out of your people, you have to understand how to communicate effectively to each individual. From learning styles, some people like to do, they like to just experiment. Some people like to go away on their own, learn something, then come back into the group, and they enjoy being in the group, but they can't learn there. Whereas others can learn in the group. And are you putting everyone in the same basket thinking, well, this is how we do things? Okay. So there is a certain element of you have to have an identity of how you do things. But if you want to be effective and you want to optimize your team performance, you have to make sure that the way you do things is the way that you do things in order to get the best out of your people. Now, I had an interesting conversation yesterday with one of my mentors, and we're talking about like a multidisciplinary team and how you actually make sure you get the best out of your people. And he says it's all about the people. We don't. If you are introducing KPIs, and this is our main point. Like if you're introducing KPIs and data to run your team, understand that like data does not tell the whole story. Data misses so much. Now, this isn't to say either or. You either use data or you don't. That's not what we're trying to say. Data should be used, say KPIs should be used to help optimize people, to help develop people, to help them grow. It shouldn't be used as a keep safe, a fail safe, a way to make sure that people know that they are going to be caught out if they fail. So we want to make sure that we're using data to like, hey, by the way, I see you're really struggling and you've got 30% traction rate on your tasks. Like, is there another way we can approach this to help you make sure you get up to your 80%? Not you're on 30%. If you don't get up to 80%, you're out. Okay. Now, there is a context that's important here. If you are a high performing team already and you hire high performing people, they have to understand that those are the metrics that they have to adhere to, but those aren't intimidating metrics. They just go, okay, I need to know what I'm doing. Okay, cool. Now I can deliver. But if you're trying to develop a high performing team and you're using your KPIs and your metrics and it's not being used to develop your individuals, you are going to be losing some really good people because you lack the ability to use the metrics to help the human instead of using the metrics to stop the human from being the best they can be. At its core, what I'm talking about here is psychological safety. Like, do people feel like they can make mistakes? And do people feel like they can come to you and be honest with you? Because if they don't come to you and honestly tell you where they've gone wrong, I hate to tell you, but it's not a reflection on them. It is a reflection on you. And you have not communicated enough or created an environment that's safe enough for them to realize that actually they're not going to get fired. They're not going to lose their job. Nothing big's going to happen if they are making mistakes and coming to you and telling you. I mean, obviously, there's context that's needed. If they made the same mistake 3 times, you've told them they can't do it again, and it was genuinely through a lackadaisical approach, you have to have standards. But it's not as simple as what everyone makes it out to seem. It's not as simple as you either do this or it's that. There is always context. There's always a gray area, and you have to make sure that from the top, if you're trying to lead your team, you're on it the whole time. And you're making sure that those gray areas are addressed as often as possible, because life is always changing, people are always changing, systems are always changing, things are always moving really quickly, and you've got to stay on it. It's a responsibility, from my point of view, responsibility on the team lead to make sure that they know the people inside and out to optimize them. Okay. So I know we went deep into that one, but the core essence of that is let's make sure that we understand personality types and how even within a role, you can have 2 different personality types, but you can't expect them always to be the same. So let's go the rugby analogy. If you had a fly half, you understand the role of a fly half. Distributor, communicates the calls. Does he make line breaks? Does he tackle? That's up to you. But you can have 2 completely different fly halves in the same team. One coming off the bench. One could be very loud, very good at communicating, always talking, setting people up, but doesn't like doing the graft, like doesn't like carrying the ball up, doesn't like tackling, because he wants to be out and see. And if you can be out and see, he's a great link player and he does what he puts people in gaps. Or you can have someone coming off the bench that their vocality is not their natural strength because they like to, they're inside their head thinking, for example. So they will link and they'll still call the calls, but when the pressure's on, they're going to run their plays, make their dummies and break the line, or like just a quiet word with the inside center. And are you aware of those differences? Because you've got your loud fly off, you can play a quiet inside center and you're not going to have any gaps. You got a quiet you got a quiet fly off that comes on super clever, but that's just they think inside, and you place them with a quiet inside center who's communicating. Okay, so you've still got two of the same roles, but different personality combinations is really important. Okay, so that's where I think we got to understand, like in a team, it's going to business. Have you got someone that plays the same role, 4 or 5 different people that do the same role, but they all have slightly different strengths in their personality, but you're expecting them all to be the same? Okay, so we want to optimize people. You've got to understand, are they in the right position, or do I need to treat them differently in that position, or do I need to put them in a different position? Okay, so a high-performing team isn't everyone is the same. A high-performing team is they've got this greater goal. They don't mind challenging each other, but they're also comfortable in who they are. And they're comfortable in who they are because you've made them feel comfortable and you've made them feel like they're in the right place. That's on you. Now, the big question that I got in my notes here is like, how the hell do we build a high-performing team? So I've told you just some of the fundamental elements that I think are important. But also at the core of it is trust. Now, I know just before you go off, Mr. Analytical Thinker, that thinks trust is fluffy. It's not, because I'll give you a 3 ways to break down trust. So you can break down trust into benevolence, integrity, and competency. Now, hopefully this is not going to make sense. So any of you that have been told, go and build the trust in your team, what does that even mean? I think I spoke about it like 2 or 3 episodes ago. But in a team, if you've got someone that you trust, think about, why do you trust them? If we look at the competency, like, are they experienced? Do they know what they're doing? And have they got a good track record? Yes. So you can trust them to do things. Benevolence, like, what's their greater goal? What is their individual goal for being involved in this team? Like, do they want to be hired, and do they want to go and take over the company, or do they just want to provide for their family? You have to know that, because that comes in with benevolence. Like, are you here to take my job? Are you here to screw me over? Or are you here to genuinely play a positive role where I know I can trust you? That is the harder one to have in terms of building trust, because it takes effort, it takes understanding, it takes asking questions and caring about people's personal lives. Okay. And then the last one, integrity. Like, do you say what you're going to do? Because if you don't, you're breaking down trust. And does that person do what they say they're going to do? And if they don't, they're breaking down integrity. So often you can say to someone, oh, I don't trust you, but you can't quite pinpoint it. So I'm hoping that if you break down trust into those 3 points, you can say, I don't trust you because I don't think you're good enough. That doesn't mean you don't trust their intentions, their character, their values. You just know that they probably need a bit more training, they need a bit more experience, or they're never going to be good enough. And that's right. If you can't trust someone on that level, you have to work so hard, first and foremost, on the trust level before you move on to like effective communication or challenge or things like that. Because if you don't build the trust as their foundation, as you build up a triangle of like trust, challenge, commitment, accountability, and results, that's that Maslow's hierarchy. Not Maslow's, that's Lencioni's triangle of high-performing teams. If you don't build the trust, the rest is going to break down. So don't skip the trust element. So if you want to build it, you can get to know your people. You can do presentations and slideshows from, ask about families, ask about friends, ask about what's interesting to them, and just try and remember those. Go and make notes. The competency thing is like, if you don't think they're competent, train them up, give them experience, mentor them. Like, all those things help. And then integrity is like, write it down, and you've got to lead the integrity bit there. If you're in a meeting and you say you're going to do something, if there's 10 people in there and 2 of them remember that you've said you're going to do it and you don't do it, you are undermining your own trust in your team, your own integrity within yourself, because people will always remember whether you like it or not. Okay, so I'm going to end it there. I was only aiming for 20 minutes. We've gone to 23. So if you have any questions on this, you want to get in touch, like this is a lot more of the stuff we do within Samson Almond, because that's more of the corporate stuff where there are more teams. But realistically, I'm bringing this into identity human because there is no difference between how you approach your family and your friends and understanding the roles that everyone plays and going into a team environment and business. It's all like, have you got a greater goal, a greater vision, somewhere that like people can aspire to, so that they understand you're not criticizing, you're trying to help them reach where they've agreed they want to reach to. And do you have conversations around that, both personal and business? So if you think about like from a personal sense, like, do you have conversations with your friends about where they want to be in the future? Because if you don't know, like, what kind of conversations are you having in the present? Like, are you guys working towards something together, or are they bringing you down? You know, if you want to stop drinking alcohol and they start to give you like banter, like, stop being so boring, what's wrong with it? Understand that they don't know where you want to end up, so they're not going to help you. And if in the same way, like, if your friend doesn't tell you they want to stop drinking in 5 years time, but then they're trying and you're not supporting them, like, you're not being a good team. Okay, so trying to give a personal element to this, because I know we spoke a lot in the business sense. So if you have any questions, if you think this is going to help, this episode is going to help someone, please do forward it on or get in touch. Like, there's a lot more in depth conversation that we can have around team stuff, obviously bringing in the background of rugby and high performance, as well as what I do in the corporate side. I'm hoping this is going to help you guys as listeners, because remember, Identity Human, we are trying to make you as well-rounded as possible. So this is an episode that isn't talking about mental health. It's not talking about identity, but actually it kind of is. It's part of everything that you've got to do to be able to show up consistently for the people around you. Okay, so I'm going to end it there. Remember, Ubuntu, we are who we are through others, and I'll work on me for you if you can work on you for me. Have a great day.